We all have skin in the game. I was thinking during the prayer, the pastor's prayer, about 2 Corinthians 3:17. It says, the Lord is spirit, and where the spirit of the Lord is liberty. That was actually the motto from Sons of Liberty, John Hancock and Samuel Adams, in some of the books I've read. Also, 1 Corinthians 7:25, we are bought at a price, not to be bondservants of men. So what makes America exceptional? This week has been a very busy week at work. I'm an OBGYN. I'm a solo practitioner, so I'm on call right now. My wife has my phone in case something happens. I've delivered 7 babies this week. Plus we had a few speeches around the week. We had a couple of debates and fun stuff. 2 nights ago, I was in about 3 in the morning. So Friday night into Saturday. Thursday night into Friday. What's today, Sunday? Friday night into Saturday. I was delivering a baby, a very high-risk mommy, around 3:30 in the morning. And delivering this baby made me think again, why am I doing this? Why am I running for the United States Senate? To be an ambassador from our sovereign state. And in this delivery, it was mommy's first baby. The baby's head came out and got stuck. That's called a shoulder dystocia. And it's not a very nice thing that happened, because you only have about 5 minutes to get that baby out. So in that time of panic and darkness and things like that, you don't panic. You know, obviously you pray the whole time. That's occurring, that's a given for me. But you fall back to your Constitution. You fall back to your foundation. You fall back to all those years of study preparing. You do the maneuvers, you move step by step logically. As things are going crazy around you, the team's getting all ready, you must focus on that. I believe we're in that point today in America. About a minute and a half into it, baby came out, little boy screaming, Junior was there, it was a fantastic time. But if I panicked and did not know my core foundation, I did not know who I was, the first time that I had a scalpel in my hand, for the first time by myself, no other professors, no other team around me, just me, was 15 years of study after high school. And I'm applying that same sweat and that same effort to this Constitution. I'm made fun of a lot sometimes by this drive-by media that I just quote the Constitution. But that's what this whole thing is about. It's about the rule of law, not the rule of men. So I prepared, I gave my skin in the game. I love delivering babies. I love it. I was raised by a single mom. She was 19 years of age. She raised my brother and myself. We got to live the American dream. I became a doctor. He messed up, became an attorney. Now it's hard. My daughter's finished her second year of law school, so I can't. My father was a attorney, so okay. But we got to live that dream. And I believe my generation, I'm 53, is the worst generation in American history. We're leaving an amount of debt that is insurmountable. The numbers are, if you look, depends what you read, between 150 to 220 $trillion of unfunded liabilities. The last time I looked in 2010, all the assets in the world was $60 trillion. So it's astronomical. So what we have to do is prepare for this. God laid on my heart 5 years ago, started preparing, so I started reading all the documents prepared for this. Because I want to wonder, our founders pledging their life, their fortune, but most important, their sacred honor, 240 years roughly ago, would they have done that for a federal government that would tell you it's okay to take a baby out of the womb? It's okay, well, what type of light bulb to have? How much water in your toilet? There are 176,122 federal regulations as of last October. The federal government passed 83,000 pages of regulations alone. The Constitution is 6 pages. 6. It restrains the government, not the individual. There's only 3 crimes in the Constitution: treason, piracy, and counterfeit. I believe the Fed does all 3. And then the Bill of Rights does not grant one single right. It just declares God-given natural rights in which the federal government can never infringe upon. Ever. The 9th protects the individual's infinite amount of inalienable rights, and the 10th protects the people's and the state. Last Tuesday on the debate, this is where Mr. Tillis was completely wrong with the Second Amendment. He talked about practicality of the federal government making laws. The federal government has no role in that. That's state and local. That's our sheriff. That's not the Fed. So I've been very fortunate. My wife and I have 7 children. My daughters are 4, 7, 8, 17, 19, and 23. And my boy's 21. We've had the honor of adopting the last 3 from China, our little girls. 2 of them had cleft palates. And we've been fortunate to travel the world. I've been to China. I've done medical missions in Central America. I've taught surgery in West Africa and Gabon. I've been fortunate to go to Western Europe. So I've traveled the world. I want to know what makes America exceptional. Because every person I've met around the world is made in our Creator's image. Every person I've met has a phenomenal heart. It's love breaking bread with them, sharing time with them. But what makes America exceptional? It can't be our debt. It can't be our regulations. It can't be just we just say it. I believe because our founders, based in Judeo-Christian beliefs, put together a secular government that has no religious test, but based on that worldview, all of us have a worldview. Right now, human secularism is in the world, combating the biblical worldview. Our founders had that Judeo-Christian belief, but most importantly, they asked 2 questions I think we must ask ourselves today. They asked, who is sovereign? Because sovereignty is the source of all power. And then what is the legitimate role of a government? The legitimate role. And both those are answered in our 2nd paragraph of our declaration. We are endowed by our Creator. So the sovereign of the universe made us in His image. We're stewards here. We represent. So the individual is sovereign. We got our inalienable rights from our Creator. Among those, that's a very word, among those. This is not the amount of inalienable rights. Inalienable rights are infinite. But among those is life. That means from the moment of inception to natural passing and everywhere in between. There is no such thing as quality of life. He makes no mistakes. And then liberty, the Latin word actually means for you to live your potential that God made in you. Bastian talks about what liberty is. He goes to believe in God and His works, and the word His works. Then the next one is pursuit of happiness. That's your dream. Not succeeding in America is great. The opportunity to fail is great. The opportunity to get up every time I fail. And usually with a neighbor helping me out, a family member, a stranger. But individuals helping individuals. Not this general government coming down, dehumanizing us. So that is the sovereignty. Now what's the legitimate role of a government? That's important again. Where is the source of all power? Look in the mirror because you reflect Him. It's us as individuals. So the very next sentence says, to secure these rights, which rights? The individual's inalienable rights. A government instituted amongst men, the sovereign, okay, giving consent to the government. So we are giving trustees, unbiased umpires, one of us, a few of us, to be the umpires of the rule book. And the rule book only does one thing, protects the individual from the collective. And the moment a government, any government, oversteps those bounds and affects the individual for the sake of the collective, it is now illegitimate. And then Jefferson listed 27 or 20, I think it's 28, some say 27, things that he called tyranny. And I get mocked a lot in primaries about it, because like Greg always talks about my philosophy. Well, without a philosophy, how can you have a foundation in anything? I got to run back to what I believe. So that's why I put everything I had in understanding these things. So I really believe before, if you were trusting me to operate on your wife, if this is your wife, would you want those diplomas on the wall? They do mean I did the work. It doesn't mean you're good. Then you get a reputation and that kind of stuff, right? So, but how do you know us servants running for office if we have that same predicate? It's not obviously a president who's a conscious scholar has no idea. He just uses everything I just said. See, it's not book learning. It's not that. It's applying those rules. So I went back and I wanted to know what they pledged their life, their fortune, and their sacred honor on. What's great is our founders kept a lot of emails, and a lot of texts, and a lot of writings, a lot of words. There's volumes of what they wrote. So I read all the convention notes in Philadelphia for that summer. And remember, that's 11 years later after we won, we declared ourselves free and then won the war 5 years after that. So this is during the time of that great chaos. They ran back to what they believed and knew was sovereign. So the Constitution was our second Constitution. So in Philadelphia, James Madison, Robert Yates, and Luther Martin kept notes every single day. We don't have to guess. Do they want a currency with a central bank called the fiat currency we have today, or they want gold or silver? They voted on August 6th, gold and silver. They voted these things. They have them down there. When they got done, Madison says, what we have done here is not count at all. Because the agents writing the contract are not the sovereign. It's the peoples and the states who decide what this contract means. So I went back and I read every convention note that was kept. Virginia was amazing. It's 666 pages. And in that room is Madison and Randolph and Mason and these great brains that would put us all together. And the most important, I thought, was Patrick Henry. Of that 600 or so pages, a quarter of it is him speaking. And he did not want the Constitution. He's fearful of men usurping their power. And only passed by 10 votes in Virginia. Our convention in Hillsborough, 1788, it's about 117 pages, is phenomenal. Because Jefferson challenged all of us at that time and even today. He was in France. And he said, if you want to know what the Constitution means, ask its friends. Ask its friends. Who are the friends? The Federalists. The Anti-Federalists asked the Federalists, what does this mean? And our state in Hillsborough was unbelievable. This, I believe, is one of the crutches of why I'm running. It's Obamacare. I'll tell you how they get to this. Article 6, Clause 2 says the Constitution is supreme law in the land, in pursuant thereof. So what does in pursuant thereof mean? Because right now, every single issue that we're discussing right now is usurping the power that they were chained to. Obamacare, Dodd-Frank, Common Core, Gender 20, I don't care what it is. None of that is in the federal level. None of it. Mr. Iredell and Samuel Johnson, our governor at the time, wanted it. So they sat there and answered questions. They went through the Constitution clause by clause. And Iredell answered Mr. Bloodworth, I think that's his name, answered. He goes, Mr. Bloodworth asked him 3 times in a row, what does in pursuant thereof mean? And why is Iredell the one I quote? Because he's a friend of the Constitution, and 2 years later he was appointed by a guy named George Washington to be on the first Supreme Court. He's better than Roberts. He's better than Kagan. He's better than all of us. He's there. He's part of it. He said, if the Congress should ever pass a law that's not enumerated, that's not listed, and usurp their power, it is null and void in the state. Null and void in the state. And we voted in Hillsborough that week, 177 to 74, no. We stayed in our own country for another 1.5 years, until 2 things happened. George Washington, a man who turned down king, became president, and James Madison got the Bill of Rights to protect the individual. So that's why I'm running. I read Obamacare. 5 months it took me. I read Dodd-Frank. My Christmas break, I read Dodd-Frank. No opponent has read that, let alone Ms. Hagan. Mr. Tillis says Obamacare is a good idea, we just can't afford it. He not understanding Article 6, Clause 2, because the federal government made a law, he started making state exchanges. On May 25th, 2011, he had a state bill to have state exchanges in our state. The next 10 years, every state that does exchanges will cost us, the whole country, $684 billion. That's not leadership. Common Core, he signed the bill that made a law in our state. How could you do that and then run against it? See, that's what I want to be. I want to be the worst nightmare for the establishment. The worst nightmare for the status quo. Yes. But because I believe, well, thank you. I believe in Republicans, and my mommy put a shirt on me for Goldwater in '64. I believe our party is the sanctity of life. I believe our party is limited constitutional government, a strong defense, that's power under control, not a bully. See, that's the Republicans' groundwork. But again, that's not Republican, that's American. That's why Reagan built a coalition of winning. So we stand on those things firm. I go back to my idea of delivering this baby this last week. I prepared for that. All with God's providence, all with Him in charge. I know He's in charge if things go good or bad. But how arrogant would I have been to run for the most powerful position in the federal government as an ambassador from our sovereign state and not prepare? So then what is his primary? A run models thing that we all flex and see who is the prettiest or the smartest? It has to do with being an oath keeper. I've kept my oath for 26 years, Hippocratic oath. My marriage vows for 27 years. And now all I get attacked is on my character, which I love. But a sign of my character is that I've done the work preparing for this. I'm the only candidate in the country endorsed by Senator Lee and Senator Paul. I don't know if you guys have seen his on Glenn Beck. I bring my wife around because she was famous on Glenn Beck. But, you know, Mr. Beck, he has nothing to gain by endorsing us. Matt Kibbe led Freedom Works. These are people of liberty lovers. So that's why I'm excited, because our structure that our founders fought and died for is perfect. Outside Scripture. That's the most, but for men, it's the only government, we're the only country the world has ever seen that made a government based upon the rule of law, which is a republic, not the rule of man, which is democracy, that makes the individual over the collective. And what's great about our country is we show our warts, we show our problems. We could not answer the clear distinction that any man made in God's image, regardless of their melatonin color, is a perfect human being. We had a problem, we went through that. We had a problem, we said, female, an XX is not the same as an XY in everything. We went through that. And by the way, Susan B. Anthony, Frederick Douglass, and Martin Luther King were Republicans. Okay? Very important to understand where that came from, the truth. So we show our warts, we keep those there. We don't change history, we just move forward, show that. We all compensate. I don't know about you guys, but for those who are saved, I show my warts every day in Romans 7, every single day. But Romans 8:1 is my eternity picture, so that's what I want to fall back on. So I did the work, we've done the stuff, but I just want to be a servant citizen, a complete servant citizen, but show the work and the effort I've done. When we get done with this talk, my favorite part is answering questions, because my employer is, if I'm honored to win, this is my lobbyist. And if I do win, I'm coming home every Thursday. I do my practice Thursday through Monday. Congress meets 3.5 days a week. What kind of gig is that? You know? So what we're going to do now is, I want to start thinking big picture stuff. Because big picture is the mission statement. The big picture is how you get things, and the details will come, but once you know our mission, and what is our mission? Franklin said, September 17, 1787, that lady asked him, Dr. Franklin, did you give us a monarchy or a republic? He said, republic, if you can keep it. See, liberty is a verb. We have to go. That's why I started with the whole Bible verse. Because if I was banking my eternity on my verb, I'm toast. He acted. He did it all. I just say thank you for the gift. But now it's our opportunity. Chuck Swindoll says, you pray for corn, God expects you to pray with a hoe in your hand. So I see the same thing with this liberty part. We got to do the work. And I really believe you can't have courage, you can't have character, you can't have any of that kind of quality stuff unless you've done the work. I may be the most greatest guy in the whole world, but I want to fly our plane. I'm never prepared for that. Do you trust me flying a plane? But you're going to trust me with a $4 trillion budget? See, that's why we got to get back to hard currency, back to gold and silver. The word regulate in the 17th and 18th century meant to make regular, not to hinder, to make regular. So one last story that asks us a question. Franklin sat there for 5 months in Philadelphia, and on the little stage and a platform above that was the president of Congress, George Washington, who watched the whole proceedings and watched everything. The man who did not want to be there, did not want to be a general, did not want to be president, he did not want to, he just served. He was a Cincinnati at the time. He just wanted to give to his fellow brothers. And on the chair he sat was engraved, Google it, it's a beautiful picture, half of a golden sun. Only half. And Franklin asked concerning the American experiment, the American dream, the American ideal, the American exceptionalism, was that a sunrise or a sunset? We must ask that same question, because I believe it's one or the other. It's moving. But the power is in the sovereign. But we're the stewards of it. That's us. If we stand up for liberty, the outcome's already won. We just got to get up and do it. That's a bold question we have to do. But I believe today we got bureaucrats. Both parties, but Tom's an example, bureaucrats who use the energy of the grassroots that got him in this position. that wanted no Common Core, that wanted no Obamacare, that wanted all these kind of things. And we have these bureaucrats that are just moving the chains around on us a little bit. Just moving around a little bit on individual liberty, just these chains, even from here to here. And they call that, moving the chains around, they call that freedom. A statesman. A statesman will look at those chains of the individual and rip them off. Give all honor to the grassroots hard work. That's, and scream at the top of the lungs, that's liberty. That's what this is all about. Thank you very much. Are we ready for a question before I have an answer? Question.
So different people will come and they'll talk and they're just words. So how do we know that you're not going to end up being like the people that are up there that are trying to stay in office and get a pension?
You have no idea. That's why I'm here to quiz me. That's why I'm running. I trusted nobody anymore. I'm giving up my love of my life delivering babies because I'm not going to sit there and beg my representatives at the state level who do not know Article 6, Clause 2, who do not know the 9th and 10th Amendment, and beg them. Everything I just said, the pro tem of the Republican, Mr. Stam, I delivered a couple of grandkids, nice man, believes I'm wrong. Whatever the federal government passes is law on the land. Our Attorney General, Mr. Cooper, says the same thing. They're wrong. So how do you know? You have to do your due diligence on that. I'm not perfect. I'm going to attack that Hanu, but I'll tell you one thing. I know if I want to play golf and have my kids and just enjoy life and go to church today, those days are numbered unless you and I give all we got. So there's no other way than you quiz me. I do believe this. I do not believe people come from here and go to DC or Raleigh and change. I don't believe we did enough due diligence before they got there. 2010. See, the Republicans are arrogant enough to believe that they won this revolution in 2010. The Republican establishment will say. It was the grassroots. See, the Democrats, they believe in central government. They believe in progressive things. They believe in those things. I believe I'd rather debate them on that because I can take that Constitution and win that debate over time. It's the charlatans that say one thing, because Senator Lee and I were together about 3 weeks ago. He goes, Greg, it's just funny how every election people run around and call themselves constitutionalists and conservatives. And I go, whoa, Mike, that's my campaign platform. But you're real. But again, they use it, they know it wins. Okay, Mr. Tillis' commercial tonight, I just saw it way over here. Common Core, Obamacare, I'll stop all these things. Then why did he pass the laws to get them in our state? So it's your job to see who's full of baloney. But I believe 2010 was interesting. Republicans won this tidal wave. About 100 in the House and about 8 in the Senate were so-called Tea Party candidates. Can you name any of them today? Name any of those Tea Party candidates that ran as a Tea Party candidate in 2010 or 12. Can you name them today in the House? How about the Senate? Rubio's for amnesty. He's for things that bother me because I think that's not. I think Lee, Cruz, and Paul are the ones that have not wavered. Amash in the House. And then look who's getting primaried by the establishment. Amash. Look who went against Rand who went against Rand in Kentucky and Kent. See, that's why it's so beautiful. When you put principle over party, you will never fail. We got his outcomes.
I'm sure you should be prepared to answer this one, but something that has been getting under my skin for years now. Ever since the Supreme Court seized for itself the power to determine all things constitutional, but the Constitution does not give them that authority to do so. They have in effect become the highest law of the land. And that's not right. Our Constitution is the highest law of the land. And I just want to know how we get that power back from them. Okay, the Senate is really important because they're the ones that actually, with consent, advice and consent, pick the Senate, pick the judges. Okay, this is why I went back to the groundwork, because did we really change one man in a robe and a crown, King George, for a bunch of people in a black robe? Because in the Constitution, I have a couple of questions. How many judges are there supposed to be on the Supreme Court by the Constitution? How many are there now?
How many is there supposed to be?
7?
There's no number. So if I was really pro-life president, I could put 100 on there. Okay, so I want to know what the hell I'm gonna do a little graph, and I'm half Italian, so just even suck it up. All right, the sovereign is the person in the mirror. You act on your sovereignty, expressing your liberty. You have a local government so you can live your life. You can live by yourself, but it's a lot better if you share bread. It's a lot better if you share resources. If you diverse a division of labor. That's pure laissez-faire Austrian economics. So you live your community that way. So that government near you is the most powerful in your life. Not controlling you, but powerful because it touches you, it's tangible. And if they overstep their bounds, they're gone. They delegate a little less power to the state government to have maybe bigger roads within the city. Police powers are called, that kind of stuff. And the state, in the 18th century definition word, meant country. Meant country. In the Paris Treaty of 1783, we ended the war with England. King George did not say we're done the treaties with the United States. The treaty is with New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Virginia. Okay, that's how it is. So to make a more perfect union, these 13, and Rhode Island came last, we were the 12th. They delegated only certain enumerated powers to the federal government. So the federal is down here. Article 1, Section 8 gives the federal government only 18 functions. Basically 2 groups, free trade and defense. So in this part, called the federal government, is down here. Legislative, executive, and judicial. So do we believe that the states and the individuals gave the 1/3 of the most further government from your life the power to make law? The Mayberry case was classic. It was never definitive law, and I'll go over the history of that in a little bit, but that was not law. Not until 1887 when the Interstate Commerce Clause, they stepped in. So here it is. And these are called agents to a contract. This is what Hamilton used. My wife Jody and I, we're the agents, we're the parties to a contract. So that means we are the source of power. We wrote a contract, a constitution, our trust, our wills to our babies. I'll make Mike the trustee. So he's the agent to the contract. We're in an accident on the way home. We go to heaven. I have my 7 kids. I have enumerated with Jody. I've enumerated the actual amount of allocation of the money, the insurance money to my children, college, house, whatever we say. He, being the agent, agreed to that. If he gives my kids any more or any less, he goes to jail. That is what Hamilton said. So the legislative branch makes all laws at the federal level for those 18 functions. There's 33 functions in the legislative branch. The